I always believe that betrayal comes with warning signs, small hints, tiny cracks, odd moments that don't make sense until later. But for me, there were no hints, no warnings, no slow changes that I could point back to and say, that's when everything started breaking. No, my world didn't crack, it shattered. And it all happened on the night I thought I was doing something sweet. I remember carrying a bag of groceries up the dimly lit stairs of Liam's apartment building. My hands were freezing because I forgot my gloves in the car. I was smiling like an idiot, thinking about surprising him with his favorite dinner, garlic chicken pasta and warm bread. I even bought that expensive chocolate he liked, but always pretended he didn't care about. I pushed open the stairwell door, feeling my heart lift at the small things, like the smell of rain in the hallway, or the thought of hearing his laugh when he opened the door and saw me. I didn't know I was walking into the moment that would end the person I used to be. His apartment door wasn't locked. That was strange. Liam was paranoid about leaving it unlocked, even when he wants to throw trash away. Liam? I called softly as I nudged the door open with my foot. At first, everything looked normal. His jacket was thrown over the sofa, his laptop was open on the coffee table, a glass of water half full. I stepped inside and the groceries rustled in the bag, the only sound in the room. Then I heard it. A laugh. A woman's laugh. Not just any laugh. Her laugh. Sarah. For a second, my mind didn't accept it. I thought maybe she was on speakerphone or maybe I misheard. I set the grocery bag on the counter, my hands trembling without understanding why. Then I heard her again. Closer. And then Liam's voice. Low. Playful. A tone I hadn't heard from him in months. My feet moved before my brain caught up. I walked toward the bedroom, each step heavier than the last. My heart was beating so hard it felt like it was punching me from the inside. I stopped in front of the bedroom door. It was halfway closed. I pushed it, and the world ended. There they were, two bodies tangled in the sheets. Liam's arm around her waist, Sarah's hair spread across his pillow. Their faces too close, their skin too warm, their breaths too soft. For a moment, I didn't feel anything at all. I just stood there. Then Sarah's eyes opened. She froze. Liam turned next, confusion hitting him before shock. Wait, this isn't... He stuttered, scrambling for the blanket. Sarah covered her mouth, as if that would hide what I had already seen. The room felt cold. My chest felt tight. My throat burned. I wanted to scream, cry, break something, but I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My whole body felt numb and heavy, like I was sinking underwater. Let me explain, Liam said, reaching out toward me. I stepped back instantly. Don't, I whispered. My voice didn't even sound like mine. It was thin, broken. Sarah started crying. It just happened once. This is the first time. I swear, I didn't mean... I laughed. A short, sharp, painful sound. Do you think that makes it better? Liam tried to get out of bed, wrapping a blanket around his waist. You haven't been yourself lately, he said, as if my sadness was the reason he threw himself at my best friend. We were worried about you. The words stabbed deeper than anything else. We were worried about you? So they comforted each other? In his bed? In the bed where I spent years imagining a future? Stop, I said again. My voice cracked. Don't talk, don't explain. I don't want to hear anything. My legs finally obeyed me. I turned and walked out of the room. I didn't look back. I didn't want to see their faces or their guilt. I didn't want their words. Words that would only make everything worse. My hands were shaking so badly that I dropped the bag of groceries on the floor. Tomatoes rolled across the tiles. The bread hit the ground with a soft thud. The chocolate bar broke open, spilling pieces everywhere like shattered bits of my heart. I couldn't breathe. I staggered to the door, grabbing my purse with weak fingers. As I stepped out, Liam ran after me barefoot, calling my name. "Please, listen. It's not what you think." I spun around, tears finally spilling down my cheeks. "It's exactly what I think. And the worst part is, I loved you. I trusted both of you." He froze. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. I walked away. And with every step I took down that hallway, part of me died. The girl who loved too hard, trusted too easily, forgave too much. That girl faded with the smell of rain and the cold bite of the night air. When I reached my car, I broke. I cried until my chest hurt. I cried until my fingers went numb. I cried until the windows fogged and blurred the whole world around me. That night didn't just break my heart. It broke me. And I had no idea how much darker things would get before I found the strength to rise again. I barely remember the drive to Maya's house. My vision was blurry from crying, and my hands were shaking so much that I had to grip the steering wheel tighter to keep from swerving. Every red light felt like a punishment. Every passing street felt like a reminder that I was running, not walking, away from the life I had poured everything into. By the time I pulled into Maya's driveway, my chest felt hollow, heavy, like someone had scooped out my insides and left an empty shell in their place. Maya opened the front door before I even reached it. Her eyes widened the moment she saw me. "Oh my God, what happened?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The moment she wrapped her arms around me, I broke again. I cried into her shoulder, my fingers gripping the back of her shirt like it was the only thing keeping me from collapsing. She didn't ask questions. She didn't push. She just held me, letting me shake and fall apart without judgment. After what felt like forever, she guided me inside and sat me on her couch. She made tea, placed a blanket over my shoulders, and waited until my breathing wasn't so uneven. "Tell me," she said softly. The words came out of me in fragments, broken pieces of a story I still couldn't fully accept. "Liam and Sarah. I walked in on them." Maya froze. For a moment, she looked like she couldn't decide if she wanted to scream or throw something. "That absolute piece of garbage," she said slowly, her jaw clenched. "And Sarah, I knew she was insecure, but this was something else. I can't believe she would." "Actually, no, I can believe it. I just can't believe she did it to you." I let out a trembling breath, feeling exhausted. I feel stupid, like everyone saw it coming except me. She shook her head firmly. "No, you trusted the wrong people. That's not stupidity, that's loyalty. They're the ones at fault, not you." But even with her words, the shame sat on my skin like dirt I couldn't wash off. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake in the small guest room, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment I had shared with Liam. Every smile, every promise, every time he held my hand and told me he loved me. I kept asking myself one question over and over. When did he stop loving me? Or did he ever love me at all? Around 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed. I picked it up with the bitter hope I hated myself for having. 17 missed calls from Liam. 9 messages from Sarah. My breath hitched. Against better judgment, I opened the first message. We need to talk. Please don't leave like this. It wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't thinking. Please answer me. Then Sarah's messages, full of excuses and pathetic attempts at innocence. I thought you were pulling away. Sarah told me you two were practically over. I shouldn't have, but please don't hate me. My chest tightened with a painful mix of anger and sadness. They didn't care about me. They cared about being caught. I threw the phone onto the bed and curled into myself. Every thought hurt. Every memory felt poisoned. When morning came, I felt like I hadn't slept for years. Maya knocked gently before stepping inside. You look exhausted, she said, sitting beside me. I feel like my body weighs 1,000 pounds. It was the only way I could explain the heaviness inside me. You don't have to go back there, she said softly. Stay here as long as you need. We'll figure things out together. Her kindness made tears sting in my eyes again. Maya, what did I do wrong? I whispered. She grabbed my hand. Sweetheart, everything. You did everything right. That's why this hurts so much. I closed my eyes and let the tears fall. I felt weak, broken, humiliated. I felt like the joke of the universe. Later that day, I sat outside on the porch, watching people walk by on the street. Their lives seemed normal, peaceful, simple. I wondered how many of them had been betrayed like me, how many had trusted the wrong people, how many had cried themselves to sleep the night before. My phone buzzed again. Liam was calling. Without thinking, I answered. The moment he heard my voice, he let out a shaky breath. Thank God you finally picked up. We need to talk. No, Liam, I said sharply. I don't want to talk. You don't understand. It wasn't supposed to happen. I was drunk. Sarah came over because she said you were avoiding us. She made it sound like you... Stop. I cut him off. Just stop. Silence. I could hear him breathing. Please, he said, voice cracking. I need you. I can't lose you. I made a mistake. A bitter laugh escaped me. A mistake? You slept with my best friend, Liam. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. He didn't respond. This isn't about what you want, I continued. I'm done. I hung up before he could say anything else. My hands were still shaking when I placed the phone down, but something inside me shifted. The pain was still there, sharp and raw, but a tiny thread of strength wound itself through the cracks. That night, Maya found me staring at the wall again. You know, she said softly, heartbreak doesn't kill you, but it does change you. And sometimes that's the best thing that could ever happen. I didn't feel strong yet. I didn't feel healed, but I felt something growing inside me. A quiet anger, a spark of self-respect, a whisper of the person I could become. I just didn't know that this painful beginning would one day lead me to a life I never imagined.
The days after the betrayal dragged on like a slow, painful storm. I kept thinking the pain would fade if I ignored it long enough, but instead it followed me everywhere. Into the shower, into my dreams, into every quiet space where my thoughts had room to breathe. I tried to go back to work like everything was normal. It wasn't. The moment I walked into the office, I felt eyes on me. Maybe it was my imagination, or maybe people could see the brokenness in my posture, in the way I kept my arms wrapped around myself like a shield. "Morning," my coworker Jenna said, but her eyes lingered too long, as if searching my face for answers I wasn't ready to give. I forced a stiff smile and sat at my desk, hoping work would distract me. But every time I opened an email or tried to concentrate on a task, my mind drifted back to that moment in Liam's apartment. Sarah's bare shoulders, Liam's startled expression, the sound of my own heart breaking. Around noon, my boss, Mr. Dalton, approached my desk. He was a calm man in his 50s with silver hair and gentle eyes. "Can I speak with you for a moment?" he asked. I nodded and followed him into his glass-walled office. My legs felt heavy as I sat down. He looked at me over his glasses. "Are you all right?" I swallowed hard. "I'm fine." The lies sounded weak, even to me. He sighed. "You're one of my strongest employees, but your performance this week, well, it's not like you. You've made mistakes you never make." I stared at my hands, ashamed. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "You don't have to apologize," he said. "Just tell me what's going on." I hesitated. The last thing I wanted was for my personal humiliation to become office gossip. But when I tried to speak, the words stuck in my throat. "It's just," I whispered, "personal issues." He nodded slowly. "Take some time off. A few days. Clear your mind." The thought of being alone with my thoughts again scared me, but I nodded anyway. "Okay." As I walked out of his office, I caught a reflection of myself in the glass. Tired eyes, pale skin, and a sadness I didn't know how to hide. I didn't recognize that girl. At lunch, I sat alone in my car. I couldn't eat. My stomach felt twisted, like my body was rejecting everything, even food. My phone buzzed again. "Liam, please talk to me." "Liam, I can't sleep. I need you." "Liam, Sarah lied to me. She twisted everything." "Liam, don't throw us away." He still said us, as if we were something worth fighting for, as if he hadn't destroyed everything with his own hands. I turned off my phone and leaned my head against the steering wheel. The tears didn't come this time, just numbness. After work, I drove straight to Maya's house. She opened the door with concern in her eyes. "You look exhausted." "I am." It was the only truth I could manage. She warmed up leftover soup and sat with me at the kitchen table. I forced myself to eat, even though each bite felt like sand in my mouth. "You know what I think?" Maya said gently. "What?" "You're grieving. Not just the relationship, but the future you thought you had." Her words hit me like a soft blow, because she was right. I wasn't just mourning Liam. I was mourning the years I gave him, the dreams we built together, the loyalty I believed he'd earned. I set my spoon down. "My friends know it," I whispered. "They probably think I'm pathetic." Maya shook her head. "If anyone judges you for someone else's betrayal, they don't deserve to be in your life. And real friends, real ones, will stay." But that was the thing. So many of our mutual friends were closer to Liam and Sarah than to me. And by evening, I saw exactly what that meant. I checked my social media for the first time since it happened. My heart dropped. There it was. A picture of Sarah and Liam at a cafe, smiling. Only this time, the caption read, "Working things out." My blood went cold. The betrayal wasn't enough. Now they were rewriting the story, and the world was eating it up. Comments already filled the post. "You two look so cute. Glad you're talking again. Misunderstandings happen. Stay strong." Misunderstanding? Misunderstanding? My hands trembled with fury. I felt heat rise to my face, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I turned my phone off and dropped it on the couch beside me. They're painting me as the crazy one. They're acting like I'm the problem. Maya clenched her jaw. Block them. Block everyone connected to them. Their story doesn't deserve your attention. But I couldn't block the pain. Not yet. That night, I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah's smug little smile. I saw Liam's apologetic expression, as if I had hurt him. I tossed and turned until the sheets tangled around my legs. At 2 in the morning, I sat up, gasping for air. My chest hurt, physically hurt. How do I move on? I whispered into the darkness. No one answered, because deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't ready to move on yet. The anger wasn't enough to heal me. The sadness wasn't enough to change me. I needed something else. But I didn't know that the next days, the ones filled with fear, doubt, and unexpected change, would lead me to the moment that would transform my life forever. I didn't know I was about to meet the person who would help me rebuild myself, piece by piece.
It was a rainy evening when he showed up at my doorstep. I didn't hear him approach at first. All I knew was the sound of water dripping onto the porch, and then a hesitant knock that felt almost timid. My hand hovered over the door handle, my heart hammering in a way I hadn't felt since the night I caught him with her. I didn't want to open it. I wanted to pretend I wasn't home. I wanted to pretend he no longer existed. But something, part fear, part curiosity, part unresolved anger, made me unlock the door. He was there. Liam. His hair plastered to his forehead from the rain, his eyes red-rimmed and swollen, his clothes damp. He looked broken. More broken than I had ever seen him. Not the arrogant, charming man I'd fallen for, not the smug, smiling version who had treated our relationship like a game. This was something else entirely. Fragile, desperate, human. I know I don't deserve to be here, he said quietly, his voice shaking. But I need to say this. I need you to listen. I stepped back, folding my arms across my chest. Go on, I said flatly. His hands trembled as he ran them through his wet hair. I messed up. I betrayed you in the worst way possible. I thought it wouldn't matter, that it would just, I don't know, I wasn't thinking. His voice cracked. He choked back tears, and I could see the raw, undeniable regret in his eyes. I trusted you, I whispered, my own throat tight, my hands balling into fists. I trusted you more than anyone in my life, and you gave me this. My voice broke as I gestured toward him, toward the rain, toward everything he had destroyed. I know, he said, voice trembling, barely above a whisper. I know, and I hate myself for it. Every second since, I've hated myself. I wake up thinking I ruined everything, and I can't fix it. I wanted to slam the door. I wanted to scream, to shove him into the rain, to never see his face again. My chest burned with betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak. You think this changes anything? I spat. You think saying sorry makes years of lies, deceit, and betrayal disappear? You think a few tears make me forget how you laughed while she lay in our bed pretending she cared? He flinched, and I realized he wasn't expecting this. No, He wasn't expecting my voice to be sharp, my eyes to be steady, my heart to have hardened just enough that pity wouldn't come easily. I, I'm sorry, he stammered again, taking a step closer. I know I don't deserve anything. I know that. He sank to his knees on the wet porch, and I felt something strange stir inside me. Shock, disbelief. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it. Him, begging, wet and trembling, his pride gone. I I never wanted to hurt you. I loved you. I still love you. And I was stupid. I was selfish. The morning after Liam's desperate visit, I woke up feeling heavier than usual, but also different. Strange because my chest ached with heartbreak, yet something flickered inside me, a tiny, stubborn flame. It was like the part of me Liam didn't destroy had finally remembered it existed. I couldn't stay in that apartment anymore. Not after the humiliation, not after the betrayal. I packed what I could fit in my car and left without looking back. The city blurred past my window as I drove, the rain still falling like tiny crystals, washing away the last remnants of my old life. I ended up at Maya's house again. Her arms felt safe when I collapsed into them, but I realized I couldn't stay dependent forever. I needed a plan. I needed a life that didn't revolve around someone who had broken me so completely. The next day, I started searching for jobs. I needed something challenging, something that would make me feel alive again, something that was mine. Hours of applications led me to a position at a rising tech company downtown. The description sounded intimidating. Project manager, high expectations, big responsibilities. But my gut told me I could handle it. I walked into the interview the next morning feeling nervous but determined. My hair was tied back neatly, my makeup minimal, but I stood a little taller than I had before. Something about this new version of me demanded respect, even from strangers. That's when I met him, Ethan Rivers, the CEO. He was tall, quiet, and had a presence that didn't demand attention, but earned it. His piercing blue eyes scanned me, and I felt an unexpected flutter in my chest. Nothing romantic yet, just the sense that he could see me. "Take a seat," he said, voice calm and steady. "I've read your resume. Impressive work. Tell me, why do you want this position?" I inhaled, steadying my voice. "Because I want a challenge. I want to prove to myself I can handle something bigger than I've handled before." He nodded, seemingly satisfied. "Good. I value ambition, but this role is demanding. Are you prepared for that?" "I am," I said firmly, surprising even myself with the confidence in my voice. The interview lasted longer than expected, full of pointed questions about my skills, my priorities, and my experience. I answered honestly, without embellishment, without fear. By the time it ended, I felt invigorated. I had faced something daunting and survived. And for the first time in months, I felt capable. I got the job a week later. The moment I received the email, a strange mixture of relief and pride washed over me. I called Maya immediately. I got it, I said, voice trembling, though it wasn't sadness. I I got the job. Her laughter was bright, like sunlight breaking through clouds. I knew you could do it. I've never doubted you for a second. I smiled, feeling the weight on my shoulders lift slightly. For the first time in months, I felt like I had made a choice for myself. The first day on the job was overwhelming. New faces, new tasks, high expectations. I made mistakes. I always do when I'm learning. But something about the challenges energized me. I discovered a part of myself I had forgotten. Someone who could solve problems, who could command respect, who could create order from chaos. And then there was Ethan. He noticed my potential immediately, assigning me important tasks, asking for my input on major projects. I couldn't tell if he was testing me or genuinely trusting me. But either way, the feeling of responsibility, of being valued, gave me confidence I hadn't felt in a long time. Even Harper, my coworker, became a bright spot. She was cheerful, supportive, and somehow made the office feel less intimidating. She laughed easily, even at my clumsy mistakes, and reminded me that life didn't have to be all grief and work. Outside of work, too, I started reclaiming myself. I went for runs in the early morning, letting the wind whip through my hair and the cold sting my lungs. I cooked for myself, ate better, and slept better. I even laughed sometimes, quietly to myself, but it was laughter all the same. Every night, though, Liam's messages still tried to creep into my life. Some days I deleted them unread. Some nights I read them with clenched fist, letting anger simmer instead of grief. His begging, his apologies, his pleas, they couldn't touch me like they used to. I realized that control had shifted. I no longer lived in fear of him. I no longer let him dictate my emotions. The first time I looked in the mirror and didn't hate the person staring back at me, I felt a strange sense of pride. My eyes were still tired, my face still pale, but there was steel in my spine. There was fire in my chest. There was someone inside me that had survived heartbreak, betrayal, and humiliation, and was ready to rise. That night, I sat by my window, looking at the city lights reflecting on wet streets. I let myself imagine a life I hadn't allowed myself to dream in months. A life where I was free. A life where I didn't need Liam. A life where I could love myself first. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I felt it. The faint whisper of something unexpected. Someone might enter this new life. Someone who wouldn't break me, who would see the woman I was becoming. But that was for later. For now, I had my own back. And for now, that was enough. I finally allowed myself to close my eyes, and for the first time in months, I slept. Not broken, not lost, not shattered. I was beginning to rebuild, and nothing, not Liam, not Sarah, not anyone, could stop me from becoming who I was meant to be. It was strange, the way life seemed to shift the moment I started building mine back up. I didn't plan it. I didn't wish it into existence. I simply focused on myself, on my work, on my small victories, and somehow the universe seemed to notice. I started hearing rumors first, whispers from mutual friends I hadn't spoken to in months, snippets of conversations about Sarah and Liam, about their perfect couple image cracking. At first, I ignored them. I didn't care what they were doing. I had no interest in their lives. But then the details started trickling in. Sarah had been fired from her new marketing job for lying about her work hours. Her proud little Instagram updates of fancy lunches and smiling selfies suddenly looked hollow. People were noticing inconsistencies. Gossip spread. The same friends who once stood by her began to distance themselves. And Liam? Well, Liam's career had begun to stumble as well. His charm wasn't enough to cover up the mistakes he had made in his business. Deals fell through, investors pulled out, friends whispered that he was losing everything, the very way he had almost destroyed me. I tried not to gloat. Honestly, I did. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about watching them suffer. But I couldn't deny the small, sweet satisfaction of seeing the consequences catch up with them. They had chosen their own destruction. One afternoon, I was walking through a coffee shop near my office when I saw a familiar face. Sarah. She looked the same, flawless hair and designer bag, but there was something in her eyes. Panic, desperation, a flicker of fear that I had never seen before. She froze when she saw me. For a split second, I thought she might turn and walk away, but she didn't. Instead, she forced a smile, weak and brittle smile. "Hi," she said, her voice uncertain. I didn't answer immediately. I just studied her. She had been so smug, so confident, so sure she had won. Now she looked small, vulnerable, defeated. I wanted to apologize," she stammered, fiddling with her bag strap. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't mean for what? Your betrayal? Your lies? Or the way you tried to steal the life that wasn't yours? Her face paled. I know I hurt you. You know you hurt me?" I interrupted. "You ruined my life. Do you understand the years I gave, the trust I gave, the love I gave? You destroyed it. And now you act like I should forgive you with a simple, 'sorry'?" She couldn't meet my eyes. Instead, she looked down at her shoes, twisting them nervously, and I realized for the first time that she knew she had lost, truly lost. The power she had thought she held over me had vanished. I turned and walked away, letting the weight of her gaze fall on my back. Part of me wanted to say more, to remind her of every cruel smile, every stolen secret, every lie, but I didn't need to. Karma was already doing the work. That night, I came home and found another small victory waiting for me. My project at work had gone better than expected. Ethan had personally praised my strategy in front of the board, calling my ideas innovative and impressive. My coworkers cheered quietly, and Harper threw a little fist pump across the office, grinning like a proud sister. I sat at my desk after everyone left, letting the moment sink in. For the first time in months, I felt powerful. Not in a cruel way, not in a way that relied on anyone else's failures. I felt capable, alive, in control. And yet, with all this, Liam's presence still lingered like a shadow. Not in my life, not yet, but in the quiet corners of my mind. The man who had begged me for forgiveness and failed to earn it had shown me one undeniable truth. People who choose betrayal will eventually face their own consequences. It wasn't about me. It was about life balancing itself. And now I understood something important. I didn't need to seek revenge. I didn't need to manipulate or plot. Karma, in its slow, inevitable way, was working perfectly. I realized this while watching the rain fall outside my apartment window. The city glimmered beneath the wet streets, each reflection a reminder that life moves forward, whether you want it to or not. I survived heartbreak, betrayal, humiliation, and somehow I was thriving. Ethan called later that evening. His voice was warm, comforting, and easy. "You were amazing in the meeting today," he said. "I'm glad I have someone I can trust on this project. You're doing incredible work." I smiled at the phone. "Thank you. That means a lot." "You should be proud," he said. "You're turning pain into power. Most people crumble. You're rising." I let his words sink in. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about Liam. I wasn't thinking about Sarah. I wasn't thinking about what had been stolen. I was thinking about what I was building for myself. And that's when I understood it fully. The past had shaped me, yes, but it no longer controlled me. I was no longer a girl who cried herself to sleep. I was a woman who could take betrayal and transform it into fuel. I went to bed that night with a strange sense of peace. Not closure, yet, but a sense that justice, in its own way, was moving. And that thought was almost as comforting as the blanket wrapped around me. I didn't need to chase karma. It was already finding its way. And as I drifted into sleep, I knew one thing for certain. I was stronger than I had ever been. Stronger than Liam, stronger than Sarah, stronger than my own heartbreak. I was ready for whatever came next. The following weeks felt like a rebirth. Every morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose, no longer weighed down by betrayal or heartbreak. Work became my sanctuary, my proof that I could rise from the ashes of my past. I threw myself into projects with an intensity I hadn't known I possessed, and slowly, my reputation grew. Colleagues started relying on me. Clients started respecting me. And Ethan continued to be a steady presence, a quiet confidence that made me feel seen without smothering me. I liked that. I liked the way he noticed my efforts, the way he trusted me without expecting anything in return. He wasn't Liam. He wouldn't destroy me. And for the first time in months, I felt safe in my own skin. But the universe, it seemed, had a twisted sense of timing. It happened on a Tuesday evening. I had stayed late at the office to finish a project for the board. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I walked to the parking garage. The night was cold and the wind stung my cheeks. I clutched my coat tighter and hurried to my car, eager to get home and finally relax. Then I saw him, Liam, standing by my car, hands shoved deep into his pockets, rain dripping from the hem of his jacket. He looked worse than the night he begged at my door. His face was pale, his eyes red, and the desperation in his gaze hit me like a punch to the stomach. I stopped in my tracks, my pulse quickening. For a moment, I debated ignoring him, pretending I didn't see him, walking past as if he were a stranger. But something about the way he froze when he saw me told me he wasn't going anywhere. "Please," he said as I approached, voice raw and pleading. "Can we talk?" I wanted to spit words of anger at him, to remind him of everything he had done, but instead I stayed calm, collected. I had learned the power of silence. "I don't think so, Liam," I said firmly. He took a step closer, rain soaking him completely. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve anything, but please, I've changed. I can't stop thinking about you. I need you." I laughed quietly, bitterly. "You need me? After everything you did? After every lie, every betrayal?" "Yes," he said almost desperately. "I made a mistake, a huge mistake. And I can't live without you. I'll do anything to make it right." I studied him, letting the rain run down his face, mixing with the tears he could no longer hide. My chest ached, not with longing, but with the memory of what he had cost me. The nights I cried alone, the humiliation, the betrayal. "You had your chance, Liam. You had every chance to prove you were worthy of me, and you failed, miserably. You didn't just betray my love, you betrayed my trust, my dreams, my life. And now You're asking for forgiveness? After all of this? He sank to his knees in the rain, voice tracking. I know I messed up. I see it now. I see what I've lost. Please, I'll do anything. Anything. I stepped back, letting the distance between us feel like a wall. The man I had once loved, the one who begged and cried at my door, no longer had power over me. I realized then that this wasn't about him anymore. It was about me. I don't want your begging. I don't want your apologies. I want nothing from you. Nothing. You lost me, Liam. And I'm not your second chance. The weeks turned into months, and I could barely recognize the woman I was becoming. The old me, the girl who cried herself to sleep, who let heartbreak define her, who clung to someone who didn't deserve her, was gone. Work had become more than a job. It was my proving ground, my battlefield, my place to show the world I was unstoppable. Every project I led, every strategy I implemented, every client I convinced, it felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself. Piece by piece, brick by brick, I was building something that no betrayal could ever shake. Ethan continued to be a steady presence, not intrusive, not demanding, but supportive in ways that mattered. He trusted me, believed in me, and let me grow without hovering. There was something refreshing about that, something grounding. I started looking forward to our conversations, but in a way that wasn't about romance. It was about respect, trust, and genuine connection. Meanwhile, news of Liam and Sarah's spiral reached me in fragments. It was impossible to avoid entirely. Mutual friends and social media did their work. Sarah had been fired again, this time from a company that had given her a second chance. She had started to post apologetic messages online, vague hints of regret, but no one believed her. Liam, on the other hand, was unraveling professionally. A key investor had pulled out of his startup, citing mismanagement and distraction. Others whispered that his personal life had begun affecting his work. The man who once had the world at his feet was suddenly scrambling, desperate, and failing. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I didn't need to. Seeing it unfold naturally was enough. It was proof that life had a way of balancing itself, that karma, slow and inevitable, didn't need my interference. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, I returned home to find a package at my door. A sleek black box with my name written neatly on the label. My curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a note. For the woman who turned pain into power, you inspire more than you know. And inside the box, a beautiful leather-bound planner engraved with my initials. Practical, elegant, empowering. I felt a thrill of pride, not because someone acknowledged me, though it was nice, but because it reminded me of something important. I had changed. I had transformed. I had taken a life that had nearly destroyed me and built something better in its place. The next morning, I walked into the office feeling invincible. Ethan greeted me with a smile. "You're glowing," he said, handing me a cup of coffee. "I'm just focused," I said, smiling softly. "Determined. You should be proud. You've worked harder than anyone I've ever met, and it shows. Everyone notices." I nodded, sipping my coffee. He didn't need to say more. The respect in his eyes, the acknowledgement of my effort, it meant everything. By the end of the week, I had secured a major contract for the company, one that could propel my career to new heights. My team cheered. Ethan gave me a nod of approval as I finally allowed myself a small moment of triumph. That night, I sat by my window, looking out at the city lights reflecting on wet streets. Memories of Liam and Sarah crept in, but they were no longer sharp or painful. They were reminders of the past, of the lessons I had learned, of the strength I had gained. I thought about the woman I had been, the one who begged for love, who trusted too easily, who believed in people who didn't deserve her. And I realized that woman still existed, but she was different now. Wiser, stronger, fiercer. Then came the unexpected twist. Liam showed up. Again. But this time, it wasn't desperation that drove him. It wasn't pleading or tears. It was anger, frustration. The once confident man who had begged at my doorstep was now glaring, his pride bruised, his ego battered. He called my number repeatedly, sent messages that grew sharper, angrier, and more desperate for attention. I ignored him completely. When he appeared outside my building one night, his face a mask of fury, I didn't flinch. I watched from my window as he pounded on the door, shouted, and demanded attention. And I smiled, quietly, almost cruelly. Not because I wanted to hurt him, but because I had realized something important. I no longer needed him. His anger, his threats, his attempts to reclaim me, they were powerless against the woman I had become. I had survived heartbreak. I had survived betrayal. I had survived humiliation. And now, I was untouchable. The next morning, I walked into the office feeling unstoppable. I had a major presentation to deliver, a project that could change the company's trajectory. I stood at the podium, looking at my team, at Ethan, at the board members, and I realized this was my moment, not Liam's, not Sarah's, mine. The applause that followed was thunderous. My heart swelled with pride, not because I had proven anything to anyone else, but because I had proven it to myself. That night, I sat on my balcony, sipping wine, watching the city sparkle beneath me. For the first time in months, I felt complete. Not perfect, not invincible, but alive, strong, independent, free. And as the rain began to fall again, soft and steady, I whispered to myself, I am not broken. I am not powerless. I am me. The universe has a strange way of keeping score. I've always believed that, but lately it felt almost poetic. Karma, justice, fate, call it what you want. It was all playing out right before my eyes. I saw the first cracks in Sarah's carefully curated world when she posted another desperate apology online. This one was longer, more detailed, full of tearful confessions and pleas for forgiveness. But no one cared. Her followers dwindled, the likes stopped, and the comments were cruelly honest. You deserved what you got. Stop pretending you're sorry. No one believes you. You lost her because you're toxic. Simple. I didn't gloat, though a small part of me felt relief. Relief that the world now reflected what I had felt for months, the truth of her betrayal. Liam's fall was slower, more painful, and infinitely more satisfying. His business had collapsed almost entirely. Investors pulled out after learning about mismanagement. Key clients terminated contracts. And then came the whispers. He was unreliable, distracted, his personal life interfering with his work. The man who once seemed untouchable was now exposed as weak, desperate, and entirely human. I watched from a distance, careful not to intervene. Not because I was above it, but because I no longer needed to. I had already proven myself in my own life. I didn't need revenge. Karma was handling it perfectly. One evening, I returned home after a late meeting, exhausted but exhilarated. I poured a glass of wine and sank into my couch, scrolling through the newsfeed. And there it was, Liam. Not begging this time, not apologizing, just desperate, angry, and lost. A viral story. He had confronted a client publicly, yelling and blaming everyone for his failures. His reputation was crumbling fast. I felt no pity. Not anymore. I only felt a quiet sense of vindication. He had made his choices. He had lost the woman who loved him, the trust of everyone around him, and now he was alone in his mess. Then came the knock at my door. By the time autumn arrived, I barely recognized my own life. Every morning, I woke up to a schedule packed with meetings, strategy sessions, and projects that challenged me in ways I had never imagined. My name carried weight at the company. People listened when I spoke. The decisions I made affected hundreds of lives. For someone who had spent months in heartbreak, humiliation, and betrayal, it felt almost surreal. Ethan continued to be my anchor, quietly supportive, never overbearing, never intrusive. Sometimes I wondered if I would have survived this without him, not because he solved my problems, but because he reminded me that trust, respect, and loyalty were possible, that not everyone was like Liam, that not everyone would betray me. But life has a way of testing even the strongest people. It started with a meeting that seemed normal at first. A client, high profile, demanding, but nothing I couldn't handle. That's when Liam appeared, not outside, not begging, inside the room with a smug, desperate confidence, acting as if the past had never happened. "You're here?" I asked, voice steady, hiding the surprise and anger I felt. "I am," he said, smiling faintly, "and I think we need to work together." I blinked. "Work together? After everything?" "Yes," he said. "I've made mistakes. I know. But I want to prove I can contribute, that I can help, that I can be better." The room felt suddenly smaller, the air heavier. Every eye in the room seemed to turn toward me, waiting for my reaction. I could feel my pulse quicken, but I refused to let it show. "You should have thought about being better before you ruined trust, betrayed love, and destroyed lives. You had your chance, Liam. It's over." He faltered, and I felt a tiny thrill, not because I wanted him to suffer, but because I realized how far I had come. I could stand in the same room as the man who had broken me and remain unshaken. Sarah entered then, her eyes wide when she saw me. For a moment, it seemed like she might collapse. The woman who had once acted untouchable, confident and cruel, now looked small and defeated in the fluorescent light of the office. "You—" She started but stopped. Words failed her. I didn't gloat. I didn't even smile. I just nodded, silently letting them see what they had lost. Power, control, pride, all of it had crumbled while I had built something stronger. The meeting began, and I led it flawlessly. Every point I made, every decision I guided, was executed with precision. Clients nodded, Ethan whispered approval, and I felt the quiet satisfaction of competence, authority, and respect. Liam and Sarah floundered beside me. Their attempts to assert control fell flat.
Their influence had evaporated. By the end of the meeting, it was undeniable. I was in control. The client had chosen our company, and the credit for the project's success rested entirely on me. After everyone left, Ethan stayed behind. "You were incredible," he said quietly. "I knew you were strong, but this is beyond anything I expected." I smiled, the corners of my lips lifting slightly. "It wasn't just me," I said. "It's what I've learned, what I've survived. Every betrayal, every heartbreak, it's brought me here." Ethan nodded. "And you're unstoppable." That night, I walked through the empty office, the city lights glittering beneath the windows. I realized something important. This was my life now. Not Liam's, not Sarah's, not anyone else's. Mine. For months, they had tried to control me, manipulate me, hurt me, but I had refused to be a victim. I had refused to let the past dictate my future. And now, standing here, I understood fully that I was untouchable, not because I had destroyed them, but because I had rebuilt myself stronger than ever. The final test came unexpectedly. Liam showed up at my apartment again, late at night, drunk, disheveled, and desperate. He banged on the door, shouting my name, pleading, crying. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I stood by the window and watched as he raged, rain soaking him, pride shattered, ego bruised beyond repair. Sarah apparently had abandoned him entirely, her own life falling apart simultaneously. The chaos of their downfall was complete. And for the first time, I realized something profound. I no longer needed closure from them. I didn't need apologies, confessions, or tears. Their downfall was natural, inevitable. I didn't have to interfere. I had survived, thrived, and risen higher than they could have ever imagined. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood on my balcony, the wind brushing my face, the city sprawling endlessly below me. The woman staring back at me in the mirror, strong, confident, untouchable, was no longer the girl who had cried herself to sleep, begged for love, or doubted her worth. She was me. And this was my life. A life I had earned. A life I had fought for. A life no betrayal could ever take away.
The morning air felt crisp as I stepped out of my apartment. Sunlight spilled over the city, catching the glass of the skyscrapers and making them glitter like 1,000 tiny diamonds. For a moment, I just stood there, taking it in, feeling the calm that only comes when the storm has passed. Months had passed since the last time I had seen Liam or Sarah. Their chaos had consumed them completely. Liam's company was bankrupt. He had vanished from social media, and whispers suggested that his personal life was in ruins. Sarah's attempts to rebuild her image had failed spectacularly. Friends abandoned her, jobs rejected her, and her reputation was shattered beyond repair. I didn't feel joy at their suffering. I felt peace. I had survived the worst betrayal I could imagine. I had been humiliated, heartbroken, and left alone when I needed support the most. And yet, here I was, standing tall, confident, and completely untouchable. I had taken the pieces of my broken life and rebuilt them stronger than ever. Work had become my empire. The project I had led months ago had expanded beyond anyone's expectations. My name was now synonymous with innovation, strength, and reliability. Colleagues deferred to me, clients trusted me, and even Ethan, the quiet, steady force in my life, admired my resilience. "Good morning," Ethan said, meeting me in the lobby with a warm smile. I returned it, letting the moment simmer. "Morning. Big day ahead?" "Yes," he said, "but I have no doubt you'll handle it. You've come so far and, well, you inspire confidence in everyone around you."
I smiled, a quiet, proud smile. Thank you. That means a lot. As we walked to the elevator, I realized how much I had grown, not just in career, but in life. I no longer depended on anyone for validation. I no longer feared betrayal, heartbreak, or humiliation. I had survived all of it, and it had made me stronger. Later that afternoon, I received an email that made me pause. It was from a mutual friend I hadn't spoken to in months. The subject line read, "They're done." Inside, screenshots confirmed it. Liam had been publicly humiliated at a business conference, called out for mismanagement and manipulation. Sarah's latest attempt at reconciliation had been mocked online, and her followers had abandoned her. The finality of it hit me. They were gone, not physically, but their influence, their power, their ability to hurt me or anyone else, gone. I poured myself a glass of wine and stood by the window watching the city glow beneath me. I allowed myself a moment of reflection. I remembered the nights Liam begged at my door, rain soaking him to the bone, tears streaming down his face. I remembered the nights I cried, the nights I questioned my worth, the moments I felt powerless. And now, I didn't feel powerless anymore. I had turned my pain into fuel, my heartbreak into determination, my betrayal into strength. And in doing so, I had become someone untouchable. That evening, Ethan joined me on the balcony. He handed me another glass of wine, and we stood in companionable silence, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. "You've done more than survive," he said quietly. "You've thrived. You've risen above everything that tried to break you." I nodded, letting his words settle. "I've learned something important," I said. "I've learned that no one can take away my power if I don't let them. No betrayal, no heartbreak, nothing. My life is mine to control." Ethan smiled, and for the first time, I felt fully at peace. Not because the past was gone, but because I had overcome it. Weeks later, I received a quiet message from a former colleague. "You've changed everything. People are talking about you. You're unstoppable." I didn't respond immediately. I didn't need to. I knew it. I had lived it. Every choice I had made, every moment of struggle, every tear had brought me to this point. That night, I closed my eyes thinking about the journey, about the betrayal, the heartbreak, the rage, the revenge I didn't need to take, about the nights I had cried and the mornings I had awoken determined to rebuild. And then I smiled, because I had survived, because I had thrived, because I had risen. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly, completely free. No Liam, no Sarah, no past mistakes, no shattered trust. Only me, strong, powerful, independent, untouchable. The final chapter of my pain had closed. And a new chapter of my life, mine entirely, had begun. I lifted my glass to the night sky, to the city, to myself. Here's to the woman I was, the woman I became, and the woman I would always be. The first morning of spring felt different. The air was crisp, the sky a pale shade of promise, and I could feel it in my bones. Life had changed, not just slightly, not just in small increments. Everything had changed. I stepped onto my balcony, the city sprawling beneath me,
And for the first time in what felt like forever, I breathed freely. The weight of betrayal, heartbreak, humiliation, and fear had lifted completely. Liam and Sarah were no longer shadows haunting my life. Their chaos had run its course, and their downfall had happened naturally, without my interference. Karma had done its work, and I had done mine. I smiled at the thought. It was strange to feel peace instead of longing or anger. Strange to feel strong without needing revenge. Strange to realize that the woman I had become was untouchable, not because others had fallen, but because I had arisen. The morning light reflected off the glass of my office building across the street, a reminder of everything I had built. My career had grown beyond what I thought possible. Projects I led were now shaping the company's future, and my reputation for strength, intelligence, and resilience had spread far beyond the office walls. Ethan appeared beside me, a cup of coffee in hand, and gave me that quiet, steady smile that had become a source of comfort. "Morning," he said. "Morning," I replied, taking the cup. The warmth seeped into my hands as I took a sip. "You look different," he said softly. "Peaceful, confident, like you finally own everything that used to haunt you." I laughed, a light, airy sound that felt strange but wonderful after months of tension. "I do. I finally realized I don't need to chase the past or fix anyone else. I just live my life now, on my terms." He nodded, eyes shining with admiration. "And it suits you, better than I ever imagined." We stood in silence for a few moments, watching the city awaken beneath us. The streets were alive with people moving toward their own goals, unaware of my story, unaware of the chaos that once defined my life. And that was exactly how I wanted it. I thought about the past, the nights I cried alone, the betrayals that cut me to the bone, the humiliation I had endured. I had survived all of it, and now I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. I was building a life where heartbreak could not touch me, where betrayal could not shake me, where I was free to be exactly who I wanted to be. I felt a thrill of possibility. There were no limits anymore, no one to hold me back, no one to question my worth. My heart, once fragile, now carried a quiet strength. My mind, once clouded with pain, now carried clarity. My spirit, once wounded, now burned bright with potential. Ethan's hand brushed mine lightly, a silent reminder that I wasn't alone. Not because I needed him, but because I had chosen someone who matched my strength, not weakened it. "I'm ready," I said quietly, almost to myself. "Ready for everything that comes next." And I meant it. The days that followed were filled with excitement, challenges, and triumphs. Every project I undertook became a statement, not just of my skills, but of my resilience. Every decision I made was confident, deliberate, and entirely mine. I had earned this power, and I wielded it with pride. I also began reconnecting with people who mattered, friends who supported me, family who had always believed in me, and even strangers whose lives I could touch positively through mentorship and guidance. I realized that my journey wasn't just about surviving or rising above those who hurt me. It was about creating a life of meaning, strength, and joy. One afternoon, I found myself walking through the park, the sun warm on my face, and I smiled at the freedom I felt. The past still existed, but it no longer had a hold on me. I was in control of my story now, and it was a story I was proud to write every day. As I sat on a bench, a gentle breeze brushing through my hair, I whispered to the universe, softly but firmly, I am ready for everything. I am free, I am unstoppable, and this is just the beginning. The city stretched endlessly before me, full of opportunities, challenges, and unknowns. And for the first time in my life, I didn't fear them. I embraced them. I embraced myself. I had survived heartbreak, betrayal, and humiliation. I had turned pain into power. I had watched those who sought to harm me fall by their own choices. And now, I was unstoppable. The past had no chains on me. The future was mine. I smiled one last time at the park around me, the sun warming my skin, the wind whispering possibilities. This was my life. This was my power. This was my beginning.